just a long lost look in your eyes. Brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Oh, don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, into the light we go.
We're back here at LCK. Afreeca Freecs clapping back in game number 2. It was so one-sided in game number 1, we thought, hey, maybe KT came here to sweep them, but Afreeca say no and take game number 2.
And in the very early game, it felt like KT was once again ahead. Remember, this started with a 3 buff for the Olaf, but quickly Afreeca were making the more percentage plays. Love the bot lane gank when Kuro teleported in as Azir was in base. And then, unfortunately, KT, from behind, we saw Rush walking in and face-checking and dying. Smeb offering himself as tribute, both in the bot lane and also around Baron. From behind, KT Rolster, you know, that's never really been something they've been comfortable with. Better over the course of spring season, but definitely not better with Rush in the lineup this game. They go down. You have to feel like Afreeca have earned the right to play against Score. You have to think another jungle change is coming. And again, we could see 5 jungle changes over the course of this series.
That'd be pretty awesome to see. I mean, generally in a lot of esports, traditional sports, you see a lot of substitutes over the course of it, but we haven't seen it, you know, very common here in League of Legends. But this series specifically, we should be seeing a lot of jungle changes. Let's take a look at the graphs. As you will notice, it looks a lot like game number 1, a little bit longer this time, but Afreeca, once again, they closed the door on KT. 0 kills for KT as well.
And damage to champions. Malphite doubling with the Sunfire Cape Trinity Force build. Everything about Malphite was for the 1v1. He won the 1v1, and Afreeca Freecs dispatched KT. No perfect game in this particular one. Baron was claimed, but still was a very nice victory aside of KT. They got 3 turrets as well. What does it mean for game number 3? Even side selection is something we're going to be able to look at and really inspect. First of all, it's the MVP. It's going to go to Tucson. He was available to play the Rakan. Remember, there was a double support ban and they didn't ban away Rakan. And Tucson says, thank you very much, and gets another MVP.
Yeah. Says up at the top, like, you're not going to ban Rakan? Okay, I guess I'm just going to play the Rakan. And this is what happens. 8-0 on Rakan. Undefeated. 0 deaths in the game as well. Full kill contribution. He gets another MVP to add to his many MVPs in the support role. There's a reason why we were highlighting this guy coming into this series.
Wonderful playmaker. Not for BDD's meteoric rise, maybe he would have been the first ever support player to win the regular season MVP. But it's not about regular season awards. It's about who's going to the final. It's about who wins this best of 5. We have at least 2 more games to play. How will the adjustments come in game number 3? As the question is, let's confirm that roster change. No surprises. Score coming back into the jungle. He has only 1 MVP. 3 games, 3 MVPs in the postseason. Big round of applause. The only player still playing from the first ever LCK or OGN League of Legends tournament in Korea is back.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Twitch chat going to be a little bit sad about that. It's understandable. They lost their boy Rush, but Score, he gets 3 MVPs in a row. It makes sense. The second Rush loses a game, you bring in your starter, and you ask him to close the door. You ask him to come back and get a win for your team. This next game going to be so important. It puts you on match point in the best of 5.
What happens if Score loses? That is the question that will be so interesting to see. Mowgli retains his spot. No double change in the jungle role. These junglers, they get that ability to watch the pathing. Mowgli's only played a single game. Scores watch 2. Let's see how we go. I'm so excited for game number 3.
This is going to be a big one. It's definitely going to turn the tide of this best-of-5 to one side. It's a lot of pressure on Mowgli, too, up against the veteran score. Can he stand up to him without that watching? We're going to wait and see as we get into pick and ban for game 3. This time, Afreeca picking blue side once again. They're going to ban the blue man as well in the Rise.
Rise, Azir, Swain into first pick. Varus was their choice in game number 1. We were very clear in our disappointment at that particular focus the champion pool of Yukal and then not take away Taliyah approach that they took. Let's see if Afreeca change things up in game number 2. So far, the bans are the same. I don't mind the approach of trying to trivialize Yukal and not allow there to be as many counter picks on the red side here for KT Rolster. So far, both teams have picked blue and lost is the way we've gone in the choices. The Ezreal ban comes through as well. That's 3 AD carry bans this time. What were Afreeca Freecs' first pick? Is it just going to be the Varus? No. Finally, they don't go for the ability self-counter pick. They go for the Olaf themselves this time against Score.
Yep, love the mix-up here. Game 1 was definitely a big question mark. We talked about the strengths of Afreeca, one of them being the pick and ban with their fantastic coaches. This time they have corrected their past and they're going to switch it up. We see the Taliyah come through again. We mentioned how it should be either Olaf or Taliyah that gets first pick. If you want to bet, if you want to deny the Olaf, or if you want to deny Yukal even further, they pick the Olaf, the Taliyah goes through. Let's see what else KT wants to pick up.
The jungle pick here will be very exciting as well. Seems like KT have decided that just denying AD carries from Kramer is the way they want to go. Now, Xayah is banned away, not the Rakan this time, so there's no Xayah. There's not actually a lot here that Kramer has preferred. But this is pretty significant because it is a self-counter pick in terms of identity. Both the Taliyah and Varus kind of quiver when the Olaf starts to run at them. We'll see how that particularly works out. The AD carry just in Kai'Sa left open 2 games in a row. It's going to be locked in here. It's a lot more risky in the 2v2 laning phase as Afreeca. Maybe they're going to start picking for lane. We've praised already the LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is a lot more likely than the Katarina in this game. LeBlanc is really strong against the Taliyah, and that will be a winning lane for Afreeca.
We thought maybe that would be one reason why you don't want to first pick Taliyah, but they mix it up. They're playing some mind games. You want to ban out LeBlanc again? We're not so sure.
So it's possible they will still go for the Galio, because Kai'Sa in a side lane functions a bit like an assassin. I think of Kai'Sa a bit like, if you remember, the purple build Vayne that used to go very early into play the Ruin King and Yomu's Ghostblade and try to just play for the side lane. Kai'Sa with her ultimate hits a W and goes in, has massive burst damage. The build is also very interesting if we will see the Death's Dance Rush or something else. So let's see if we do see something like the Global to try to help in the side laning of the Kai'Sa. But it's going to be the Tahm Kench taking the first round, and KT will look at the mind games and they will ban away the LeBlanc, trying to find a Yukal some equal footing in the 1v1.
Yep, same ban they did in game number 1 when they picked up the Taliyah for themselves. It does make sense. The Gangplank this time around is going to be taken away from Smith, so we'll be seeing a different top laner this time.
Does seem like jungle will be taken, and then last pick will be left for counter pick in the top lane. They don't want to leave open the blind Camille after Gangplank is taken away. That's already information that Kingzone and also Afreeca will be able to use, as they now know the Ultra Comfort when it comes to the 1v1. Seems like the Fiora days maybe are behind us, unless we see a really assertive Fiora pick in this particular game. Definitely possible. Jungle pick into the Olaf. Nidalee is seen as the compositional answer, but of course Score is not a well-known Nidalee player. That's what we thought Rush was in the lineup last time Afreeca and KT played, to play the Nidalee.
Yeah.
Score has been known to play the Nidalee, says he plays it because of its power, but they will not lock it in this particular game, I would wager. They go for Sejuani, the best tank at disengaging from the Olaf.
The first time we're going to see it here in this series. Definitely is just nice in general. We're going to see also the Karma picked up here for the mid lane for Kuro.
So it's another utility pick for the Kai'Sa, but not the Global. So they don't want to go for the Galio, too easily outlaned by Taliyah, not rotated in game number 1. They're going to go for the Karma mid lane in order to just follow and make the Taliyah accountable. It's a very strong 1v1 laning matchup for the Karma, so you're still very happy about your lanes. The final lane, though, is the blind pick. What are we blind picking? We're saying to Keen, the safest tank would be the Ornn. Patchworking into any sort of item build will be another initiator on the lineup. They will go Ornn. What does this mean for Smeb, though? Last pick on the red side. He's taken Fiora in many similar matchups and tried to make it work. Doesn't do that well against the Ornn. Let's see if it's going to be playmaking. It could also be a Tahm Kench top. I know that sounds crazy, but does very well into tank matchups. It's probably going to be the Shen, a very famous legacy pick for Smeb, but I'm not 100% sure until we round out to 20 seconds.
We'll have to wait and see if they actually do go ahead and lock that in for the top side. Would have to imagine it. This would be more standard. Mata on Tahm Kench, his second most played, and of course Smeb Shen, everybody knows about that. Some of the best Stand Uniteds we've seen in the entirety of Korean League of Legends.
Oh, we're piling on with this comp,
nice.
Regardless of where people are going, it will be the top lane Shen. It's a very standard Abyssal Voyage. They have the Weaver's Wall, they have the Stand United. This is very much about piling in. It's not as pigeonholed into the mid-game team fights as before. There are always some damage concerns on both sides. Kai'Sa very strong in skirmishes. Afreeca in the 5v5. They have great disengage. They have very big damage out of the Kai'Sa, but a one-threat comp largely from Afreeca. To me, it's largely going to be about the rotations, the rotational play. Won by KT in game 1, Afreeca in game 2. Afreeca are more reliable, but KT is so aggressive. That's how the early game goes with Spirit in the lineup, having got to watch Mowgli in game number 2.
The jungle shenanigans are certainly happening here. The flips in the jungle with the different members coming on in here. Score on Sejuani, very standard, straightforward. Going to be making that play. The rotations make it back, as you say. KT certainly have so much potential to make map plays. You got Talia, you got Tahm Kench, and you got Shen to roll all over the map. So let's see what they got here. We're going to jump into game number 3 right away. Well, here we go. Kai'Sa finally coming in. Got a nice murmur from the crowd when that was locked in, but for us on the desk, it's not really a huge surprise anymore, but it's the first time we're seeing it here in this series.
We still don't really have a fully formed understanding of Kai'Sa at the pro level. We had Bang pop off in his first game, able to clean up a late game team fight, but he'd had a Kai'Sa syndrome moment where he went in with his R and died instantly in a 1v1. Can also 1v3 when she starts hitting her items. Laning phase, well, she's pretty short range, so not fantastic. And even at level 1, they're pushing in here. But to fully understand Kai'Sa, you have to remember that Bang first picked it on blue side, then banned it on blue and red in the second series, SKT versus KT, and then it's gone through picks and bans in this series already. So we're still trying to understand where Kai'Sa fits in at the professional level, and we've seen arguments both ways. Seeing both lanes have rushed for the 2v2. Kai'Sa desperately, as the weaker 1v1 champion when it comes to the laning phase, wanted to get the early experience and the early push, but KT can just have the Sejuani start no leash on the top side and try to get through that way. So they get to lane, and that means you've got to be very accountable for your level 2 spike here if you're Kramer and Tucson.
Yeah, and this time around, I mean, in game number 1 and game number 2, we saw so many jungle shenanigans. Of course, the spot lane is hard for Tucson and Kramer here, but we saw so many jungle shenanigans from the Olaf invading with the help of their team. But this time for Afreeca, they decide not to push in against the Sejuani. They decide just, okay, go for a full clear. No shenanigans. We're not going to get in their face. We'll play a more standard, laid-back earlier game here.
Of course, that's about the differences. When you're talking about the Olaf aggression, it was KT both games. This time, it's Afreeca. They don't want to have any sort of pitfalls in the early game. There's no Braum to really put over the edge how strong the skirmishing can be. So a lot more safety. Fun to see Smeb back on the Shen. Shen top lane has not been in any way contested in the LCK. In fact, Shen support also died a death, so he's in very little Shen in recent weeks. He is a fantastic Shen player. I wonder how much damage he will go for. Was watching Flandre play Kleptomancy Shen over in the LPL. This one is going to be the Grasp of the Undying, so very much focused on just the tank v tank trades against the Ornn. Yeah. Probably no Triforce this time.
LPL, certainly a lot of fun in terms of being very creative with their builds.
They
When you're going up against a tank, why not take Kleptomancy?
I mean,
right?
there's been like
That's the
310 games as well, so they throw out crazy stuff.
True.
And some of it sticks, like the 24th Malphite that we saw in game number 2, and some of it, you know, you don't push it through to the LCK. So
like the Klepto Shen.
the Klepto Shen, you know.
You know, I like the idea, but probably in practice, not going to work out as well.
Kai'Sa laning phase, again, not going to work out particularly well against the Varus, who can hold her very, very accountable. So that's what they were able to get. Even though they ended up picking Varus into Olaf, this was in kind of full knowledge that Kramer didn't have anything left that could actually win the 2v2, so they were very happy to get control bot side that was a miss in game number 2. A lot of control with the Calista game 1, not so much in game number 2.
Yeah. You get to see you, Cal, on the Taliyah once again. We saw exactly just how precise he is with his abilities. The Weaver's Wall's always in the right spot to enable his team. I'm going to hold my thought as we have a nice little engage here. Deft getting engaged upon, but doesn't seem like much will happen because Tom Kent's is down in there. But yeah, double kill even in the mid lane, or the mid game rather, for the Taliyah. Excited to see what he can do in game number 3.
On the top side, we're seeing Mowgli's pop the Predator.
Oh boy, it's going to be hard, especially with the knock-up and the taunts here. Does he want to go for the flash? Not yet. Going to use that dodge circle first. Perfectly played by Smeb to get away from that one.
He actually had to be really conservative with the flash. That wasn't an early flash moment. Early flash, he probably dies, but got value out of his W. Nicely done by Smeb. He doesn't die. If we think about why Shen was picked here, remember, it's another way to pile onto bot lane. It's another thing that bot lane has to respect. And if they can put Kramer down in the death chamber a couple of times early, there will be huge damage concerns in the mid game coming through from Afreeca. So that means that that's a lot about what KT have chosen. Let's rush to lane 2v2, no leash. Let's have the Shen top lane to potentially attack the 2v2. Shutting down the Kai'Sa is the big thing that KT want to achieve with this Shen draft.
So we're getting another look at the runes here for Kai'Sa. Of course, Gathering Storm seems to be pretty standard on 80 carries. Got the Legend Bloodline as well.
Not going to be the attack speed Legend's choice there. It's going to be the lifesteal, just because Kai'Sa, as a shorter range carry, can have some issues in lane. So you can't just go for the attack speed and start working on the evolution of your E, and to be a bit more accountable. Saw these runes when I was doing research on players like Ruler and other Korean 80 carries, so they aren't going into the attack speed side of the precision tree. Seen some crazy stuff in solo queue, of course. It is press the attack this game, we should mention. That is the pretty common choice. I wonder if it will be Death's Dance Rush from it, just for a bit more of that assassination potential. I faced an electrocute Kai'Sa in solo queue. It did a lot of damage, Valdez.
It's solo queue, you know? You're going to get some weird stuff.
Hey, we just have no professional games on 8.6 to know what the best is. So you see things and you're like, well, that could work.
Yeah. Are you ever going to get a top Kai'Sa game? Is that a thing? I feel like it could be, perhaps into some of those tank matchups. We've seen a lot of Lucian top into stuff like that, but you definitely have a lot of freedom up there. Question is, could she survive in the long lane against some ganks?
I mean, Kai'Sa jungle is also something people talked about. There was Score who said it's about as likely as Jungle Teemo to come out, so he had some choice things to say.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, I guess.
Score is famous for saying things like, I really don't like Nidalee, then locking it in, though, so the mind games are always real. And Spirit is, of course, exactly the type of player you'd expect to play the jungle Kai'Sa, our mad scientist who was playing Lulu jungle in the regional qualifiers last year.
Yeah. Rumble jungle, jungle Jace. We've seen from time to time some weird ones. Yukal, he's just doing his thing. Gets the big one smited away, but steals some of the Raptors away from Mowgli.
Doing his best Score impression, or I should say rush impression, and finding the enemy jungle and doing a bit of battle warding, as he found actually a brief bit of respite in the mid lane. It's actually an Aegis rush from Karma. That's so strange. Let's hold the point for now.
Okay, Predator coming in. A very early flash from Mata. I love that play to just get away.
They had the lane ward, so the Rammus S gank coming in with the Predator. Love the fact that Rammus ganks became a reliable thing to return to, but with Predator in the meta, feels like everyone has the ability to lane gank, and the lane gank ward allowed the early flash and the safety for Mata.
Keen looking to get a little bit frisky in here. He's going up against Smite, so not going to work out. And just get away with the blasting plant, but at least does his own little bit of battle warding, sees exactly where Score is. As I mentioned before, it's not really about the two jungles, as Mowgli is trying to go for another gank. This time Mata does not have his flash, pushing on in, trying to bait here, but not quite able to engage.
They have a double level 6 advantage and a Shen, so Tucson and Kramer are definitely having to approach with trepidation even though their jungler is there. There's so much ability to turn. There's so many people who can get there. Everyone except Score can be bot lane in an instant. So that's why they have to be a lot more accountable. The CS lead is about 10. I know I've said accountable quite a few times in this cast, but that's what it's about. It's about holding down Kai'Sa with the Shen lock-in, with the laning trades, and at every moment, Afreeca have to take a step back and think, do we have Ornn with the ability to interrupt Shen? If the answer is no, don't make the play. Don't walk up.
Don't do it, especially when it's the flash you got from Tom Kench, right? You mentioned that Aegis, it's a banner of command first.
Super fast, actually, just to try and keep Taliyah in lane. Would you say it keeps her accountable?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I wouldn't say that. You'd say that, Papa Smithy. But
it's actually a really good choice. So that's why I thought it was crazy, because you'd think there would be at least a lost chapter or a tier first. It's just purely, hey, if you're going to roam, I'm going to take mid lane turret. This is basically trying to roam on an Ignite Jace, who already has plenty of AD, who's just going to walk up and use W on your turret. Just trying to keep Taliyah in lane forever and stop there being 4 people bot side with no counterplay from the side of Afreeca.
You mentioned that was one of the big strengths of their composition with the Shen, Taliyah, and everything they've got, but I wonder whose idea that was, too. Was it Kuro? Just goes into the game. He's like, I'm really going to mess with this Taliyah. I'm going to make sure she can't leave the lane. Or maybe it was a coach. You know, we always talk about the coaches. Maybe the coach whispered in his ear and he said, buy Banner of Command. I know it's not as good on this patch, but still do it. It's really good against Taliyah.
And you just know that Yukal scrimmed 0 games against 8-minute Banner of Command. He's just tilted. He's like, what is this? What is this crap in the mid lane?
Yeah. Can we get a remake, please? I don't think this is allowed.
Really nice stuff there, and Afreeca are inventive. I think the coaching staff, you know, they brought over the Chinese pick in the Malphite top lane. Now they got the Banner of Command. They think about the game a bit differently, and that's cool to see.
Tucson doing his thing. He'll engage time and time again onto them, but always with the Tom Kench in the lane, you're going to have trouble getting an actual kill. Certainly a good way to shut down that Alistar. It was picked right afterwards.
Nice side steps from Kuro. Very hard to actually hit the seismic shove onto Kuro if Inspire is available. So he'll be able to sidestep. And for all the pushing and little poke damage, KT haven't been able to get a meaningful lead around the Kai'Sa. The Kai'Sa escapes lane within 10 CS, just like Vayne back in the day, and a lot of those more tricky laners to pull off. You're pretty happy if you're the side of Afreeca.
Certainly you are. This is turning into a very interesting series just because of the picks here. I saw the Karma and I'm like, well, you know, I play so much Taliyah. I know how good it is up against the Taliyah. Very annoying to deal with.
Rageblade Rush onto Kramer. Again, it's common, but we see Essence Reaver and Death Stance first more so than other choices. But the Rageblade is very powerful at some point in the Kai'Sa build. It is another dueling item. If you get 6 stacks, you proc your W and your passive so much that you can always get that execute damage coming through from a passive. Yukal goes for the invade, done this a couple of times before, but even with 2 control wards, the roam bot lane has never come from the Taliyah, and Kai'Sa continues to pile on the farm.
It was a small mistake from Score. He's really trying to make this work. The Predator's going to come in now, but it is 2-on-2. Trying to go for the Karma, missing the Q, actually, the Arctic Assault, but they're going to go on to the Olaf, who's forced to blow everything. Now Def getting engaged upon the Ignite is ticking, but he does survive. Didn't get to see the full engage happen down there.
I don't know how he was forced to use double summoners, but he actually now has a summoner disadvantage compared to the Kai'Sa. There'll be a lot of free time for Kai'Sa to pick up a lot of farm in the interim now. We'll need a replay. I imagine a face check of some sort happened. It's not going to be the end of the world, but the more Afreeca can get through the early game unscathed and show up with Karma and Kai'Sa at 2 items, the happier they'll be. Is this was just Mata on her own and Deft overstaying in the bot side.
Yeah. Also, fantastic read from Tucson. The second he sees Mata move even the slightest bit away from Deft, he's like, I've got an opportunity. Already had his Moby Boots, was able to close the distance and make that engage happen.
Big mistake from Deft, who has been, of course, guilty of those in the playoffs many times in 2017. This is not at 35 minutes of the game in the balance, but it's not ideal. Afreeca on the top side. First time they've had a bit of control. They're looking for their first Rift Herald of the series.
Yeah. Mowgli trying to channel his inner rush here and get all the objectives for his team. This time we haven't seen much focus on the Drakes, even though it is a Cloud Drake. Just haven't really had any kills or opportunities to get on in there, but very early Rift Herald could be quite nice for this Olaf.
It's really impossible to draft the Kai'Sa and Olaf together and also take Drakes, because you're not going to be strong around the 2v2 because Kai'Sa struggles in the very early game. So that was just something that Afreeca couldn't add onto what is now the first neutral of the game, which is that Rift Herald, and it's actually just popped instantly. I wonder if that was a mistake or not.
You have to imagine that is a mistake. Probably wanted to place a ward or something, and this is very unfortunate. Not going to do enough damage here. Certainly could have waited, maybe wait to see where the Sejuani is and try to get a better charge, but could have even taken out that first blood turret too if it had full health. So
of all champions to press 4 or your warding item on, it's not a Lee Sin, it's actually an Olaf. Very strange. Just a pure mistake from Mowgli, bit of jitters, you'd say, on the stage.
Yeah.
Score, and also Yukala here.
This should be enough damage. Let's see what he can do, though. Keen going for the 1v1. Wants the knock-up first. Not even going to blow his flash. Knows he's dead at this point. They're going to give the first blood. Well, they tried to give it to Yukala, but it goes to Score on the Sejuani.
He's going to continue attacking lane. He's going for the Titanic Hydra Rush, which is the Score natural build from the old days. They will get the roam, but with the Banner of Command, we do have the Devour here to try to slow down the push. Def going to have a lot more happy time in the side lane. That also gives free time to Kramer. There's no free lunches, no free victories for either team. It's always about the trades. And now KT looking bot side to not give up any more minions to the side of Kramer and Tusa.
Fantastic team play there by Afreeca to call them up into the mid lane and stop that from happening. Or there, I said Afreeca, but I meant KT coming in with the Abyssal Voyage, and so they're going to keep that alive. Still no turret going down in this game.
So it needs to be a two-step plan to make a roam. You need to know that Abyssal Voyage is there to respond to mid lane when Talia wants to go top. And of course, variables change very fast in the 5 to 10 seconds before all of that happens. And that's the sort of area where 2-item Kai'Sa hits the right W, goes all in, and catches someone in transition. We already saw Deft have to blow 2 summoners in transition. So because KT need a multi-step plan from the early Banner of Command, there is still plenty of room for Afreeca to punish on those rotations. What does it all mean, Valdez? We take a step back, we look at the wards. Right now, the ward line, much better for the side of Afreeca. They do have a true global on KT to skip around ward lines a little bit, but they have no information on where the Olaf is. No real jungle control. They've been battling against the draft a little bit here, have KT, so you really do like the position that Afreeca find themselves in at 15 minutes, and the fact that Kai'Sa is still putting on the items is good news for them as well.
Yeah. Double Rage Blade for those 280 carries in the bottom side. Mata's been loving that ward. Spots out a cow in the jungle, but also Mowgli trying to come in with the lane gank, as you mentioned before. Score, he's been hanging around this brush a lot, really trying to answer the Olaf, but Afreeca looking to up the ante here, trying to bring down actually the Ornn. So far, just a 2-on-2 trade here. You had the bottom lane actually rotating with Mata, and that means that Afreeca is just going to back off.
Well, he's running into the enemy Olaf, trying to get him to use Ragnarok. They're going to get him to be a bit unsettled, and from the poor use of the Rift Herald we'd already seen, it's a pretty sound plan. It's a level under, but it's only a bit of experience. As you can see, experience bar is full towards level 10 and saps it away from the mid lane. Score continues on the front foot. They want to finally get this outer bot lane turret down, but controlling vision has been a struggle so far for KT. The laning phase extending is advantage Afreeca.
Wow, a very big wall down on the bottom side. They want to engage here, but Tushin immediately going aggressive with the TP. Also, the wall not going to last all too long. Just at level 11 here, so interesting one, but they do get the TP out of Kuro at least.
And that's a big one for Afreeca. It relieves a lot of pressure. Bot lane, top lane didn't use summoners. If they could have got Keen's teleport, that would have been at least a decent trade. KT aren't able to get much except for mid lane. Mid lane can just run at Talia and stop her roaming, and her Weaver's wall is down. Will we see any priority on this Cloud Drake? We had a 6 straight game, or nearabouts, in game number 1. But not so much in this game. The laning phase continues. You do worry that if Afreeca can show up with that 2-item Kai'Sa, we're not ready to understand exactly how much hurt she can unleash on KT.
Scores there again. Same position. Just really wants to bait this out. Wants to stop the Banner of Command from pushing in. Need to buy time to smite this. Banner of Command really doing a good job of keeping tabs on the KT jungler.
And on the Talia, like we mentioned a couple of times, so rinse and repeat. Hasn't really been any new developments in this game for the past 8 minutes or so since we first saw the use of the Banner of Command with the rushed item coming through from Kuro. No Stand United this game either. Level 12 already for the Shen, who has built for lanes so far, just into the Titanic Hydra. See what the second purchase will be from Smeb in this game.
Weaver's Wall not yet available, but they really want to push down this outer. UCal and Score both here, but here comes Mowgli.
Will he pop the Predator? Is used.
Yeah. Just poking on in. They're going to deny the turret for now, as also Kurrit was rotating down. Look at Smeb also just walking his way down the river here. He's going to be spotted on a ward now, though.
He can push in the mid lane a little bit and wants to be there as fast as possible. Isn't even happy with the Stand United for the more decisive rotation. This is all about having as many people bot side as possible. They finally pull away. But I think Afreeca is going to be really happy with how long they kept standard lanes going, as the first Zeal item is completed by Kramer. Working on, you would imagine, rapid fire cannon, but there's actually an argument for most. There's a lot of value out of Hurricane because of how it interacts with the supercharger on the Kai'Sa, and maybe with an Ornn, also all the overshields coming through from the Karma, he actually feels like he'll be able to fight in close quarters long enough to get Hurricane value, and then superchargers basically on 0 cooldown as you approach 100% bonus attack speed.
Certainly need to keep an eye on the Kai'Sa items. We'll see the next time he does go back and buy. Def did go back, and he picked up a Wit's End to finish that one off. Up to 2 items now.
You don't skip the Wit's End in a game like this because both comps, when it comes to the team fight, has to kill the closest target. They have no ability to get to the back line on either side, and Olaf's not going to be strong enough to run in himself and kill. It's not 8-kill Olaf in this particular game. So Seismic Shove and Varus and Talia hitting the front line, and the same story for Afreeca. Now, as the fight develops, when the frontliners go down, then you see the killer instinct come through, and potentially Kramer repositioning the backside, Bang-esque, to be able to pull off a really nice dive. But that's a situational thing. The standard bread and butter team fight is killing the front line.
We'll see what it can do once we do get into a team fight. We really haven't had any just yet. Afreeca, as you mentioned, they've been doing a really good job of just keeping everybody away from diving, from using their globals on the side of KT. They eat a small deficit in the early game, but they've taken a lot of the objectives away too. Still no Drake's been taken here by KT. The Rift Herald did go over to Afreeca, even though it was misused. KT, though, looking to push into the mid lane after getting a bit of an advantage down on the bottom side.
Crazy thing about this game is we haven't even talked about the Relic Shield coming through from the Olaf. Mowgli did it in the previous game as well. Just about saying, hey, we might ARAM for a while and just pick up some extra gold. No Bandit, of course, as finally the Drake is collapsed on, but it's a 20-minute Cloud Drake into a second Cloud spawn. While decent on patch 8.6, Afreeca were happy to keep it delayed. But gold generation from the jungle still happening after the changes, and the first mid lane turret could be going down now.
Looking to engage onto Mowgli here. They force the Ragnarok, and now coming from behind, here's the Weaver's Wall too. Trying to get out of the back line. Kuro getting extremely low, but the double knockup now from Ornn, trying to lock down Smeb. In goes Kramer into the face of 5 of them. Big knockup. Now it's Score. Goes down. There's the chunk from the Karma with the help of Kramer. In the end of it all, Afreeca Freecs win the team fight.
And KT eventually had one person up the front just get auto down from 6-stack Rageblade on the Kai'Sa, and she shreds frontliners who try to do that. So KT weren't actually able to keep on one target. The taunt misses from Smeb.
Now Smeb getting himself into a lot of trouble, does have the Devour. Afreeca trying to bite off as much as possible after winning the first team fight of the game. Only able to get 1 turret. Let's see where they go from here.
Just no one is tanky this early in the game compared to Rageblade Kai'Sa. They have immense Baron speed as well, and they're straight on it.
There you go, 22 minutes looking for that Baron. The only person who did not back was Deft, actually. He's going to have to get a pretty nice steal. We'll see if Smeb, they're going to try to engage here. Tucson is very low. That is going to go over to Ornn somehow. Kramer getting low in the backside. Shen trying to do that damage. It goes over to Mana, and they get a second kill. Afreeca looking like they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. Looking for a third kill now is KT, as Deft also going to survive. There you go. Baron to Afreeca, but 3 kills to KT.
Great Baron speed, but in that sort of a fight where Kai'Sa can't free hit, you see the difference. Not able to put out damage. KT get 3. They're going to get at least 2 turrets, you'd imagine, against the Baron buff. So it might be a negative Baron buff power play. KT spared their blushes a little bit, but only a little bit, Valdez. The game is still close.
That it is. It was 1-1. Game 1 looks so favored to KT, but then Afreeca with an equally favorable game in Game 2. Now it's anyone's here in Game 3. Let's take a look at this replay first.
We don't get to see the team fight to show the Kai'Sa damage. Man, it was a crapshoot. It was a very low health bar on the Baron, and of all people, Orin was able to take it down. But Kai'Sa is closed down. She's not free hitting like she was in the team fight. We weren't able to show you. KT Rolster playing front to back is how they need to play these fights. A lot more stable in that particular one. They get 3 kills. Only 2 Baron buffs left, and Deft has indeed been playing around with the New Age build. It will be the Nationals Tooth third. We can see double Nationals Tooth in this game.
Certainly could. Working towards that item. It was pretty incredible the amount of damage that Smeb was able to do in that last fight. Was actually able to get onto the backside there. Mata also blowing his Ignite to take out Kramer, but that was on a 2-item Kai'Sa. We'll see if they can actually do that later on in the game. Spoilers, they can't. The Kai'Sa's going to be really knocking them down. So Afreeca, with that Baron, they still have 2 members, and the early Banner of Command allows them to get a really strong push in the bottom side.
The Baron is here, trying to push through, looking for Afreeca's second victory in this series and second in a turret. Walking up here. Very, very difficult to get damage onto it, of course. Finally, Smeb walks up.
Going to answer with an ultimate from Orr. Nice lineup on the 3 members. Going to buy a lot of time, if anything, to continue this push. They save the Bannon minion, most importantly.
They don't see Yukal. They know a Weaver's Wall is likely. They could try to disengage with one very soon, but they get the turret just about with that Bannon minion.
Wow. This game so even at this point in time. They don't want to go any bit farther than they have to. They get 1 turret and they back off. They're only 700 gold ahead in this game. Still a minute on the Baron, but not much that they can use it for unless they want to move towards the top side, as 5 members are right now.
These teams fights are going to be so fascinating. We're going to see 3-item Callista into Infinity Edge against our first Nationals Tooth Varus in competitive play. Theory there being the Rage Blade still being picked up. You get a lot of value out of the on-hits. Very easy to stack it up pretty quickly. Doesn't have the Hurricane for the AoE, but it is Hurricane from Kramer. Does have that damage amp of the press the attack as well. So it's going to be very interesting watching how fast the frontliner falls down. Because my first thought is Kai'Sa, and my first thought is that Yukal might be dead.
Yukal in a lot of trouble here. Has the stand united. Now he's moving forward, trying to do that damage. But here's Tushin in the back line. Only gets the tanks in the front, though. Not able to fully engage on the Deft or Yukal that were sitting behind the tanks. So the engage does not work out in the end for Afreeca.
Back away. Able to get headbutt pulverize on the priority targets there. Tushin uses flash, I believe, for that as well. So KT able to back away. Such a tense point in the game. Vision line pretty even. Top side control around the Baron. Doesn't spawn for a while there for KT. 1 control ward around the Cloud Drake. We'll see how much priority there is there. It's a sneaky early Elder Dragon is possible if this Cloud Drake is delayed for a couple of minutes. Don't believe Kramer is anywhere near picking up the evolution on the Supercharge just yet. Needs 1 more attack speed item. As went for the Legends Bloodline and didn't go for the attack speed on the rune.
He just went back and picked up his Infinity Edge, so there's 3 items for now at least.
Next seal item is where we'll get the evolution of the Supercharger. It still does a lot of damage if left unchecked. Should not happen in this game, but if someone tries to solo tank, they will be very quickly reminded how much damage Kai'Sa can do if she's free hitting. We're watching the replays here. This is such a weird build path when you have ability to compare Wits and Nationals Tooth on an AD carry compared to this 3-item Hurricane. KT are out of position for the mid lane, and Afreeca just pushing through. And KT giving up a lot of control on mid lane just for a Cloud Drake means they will lose this inner mid lane turret.
That's big for Vision around the middle side. Afreeca, now that they're ahead,
how much more can they get?
Yeah, I mean, they have the Banner of Command as well. 5 members of KT go back, and actually Smeb didn't even go in. Looking, and there's the engage. They get onto Deft here, but Mata is going to be on time to eat him up, but they want to get on top of him, and
that's
that
it.
they will. That's 2 kills, and a 3rd one going over to the Kai'Sa. Fantastic engage from Tushin to make that all happen. Big mistake on the map from KT as well. And now Smeb is all alone here in the backside. Should be a 4th kill. Can't even give that one over, but this one is going to be keen, and they could even end from here.
They're going to look to try to do it, Valdez. This is the sort of thing KT does too often. They make very poor decisions in their macro in the mid to late game. It's going to be a death. It's going to be the end of the game.
Yeah, UCal not even there to stop the minion waves. That's going to do it. One mistake. I hope the Cloud Drake was worth it, Papa, because they lose the game from it. That's going to do it. Afreeca, very nicely done. Fantastic read and another great engage from Tushin, who's got a huge smile on his face. We are going to have Afreeca on match point as they take game number 3.
Afreeca Freecs come back purely off a macro mistake. And in our preparation, we said, if it is regular season Afreeca, they will look at those mistakes that KT made against SKT that went unaccountable and be able to be the more polished team. Didn't see it in game 1. In game 3, on full display, this wasn't about a counter pick. This was purely one decision at 27 minutes separating the two teams. KT went all in on a Cloud Drake, gave up their side wave, gave up their mid lane, and purely through mid lane, Afreeca bulldozed an early game 3 victory and maybe denying the KT fans from seeing their team in Busa.
Never get excited is what we always say. Not sure if anyone did, but KT certainly getting a little bit excited themselves about that Cloud Drake. Bit of a mistake there. Certainly going to be one we can write down and go back and say, wow, that really happened. That was the way that they lost the game in this big best of 5. We were expecting them to actually go up. A lot of people saying KT should win, but I don't know if you deserve to be in the finals. You need to make cleaner plays than that.
And this is with Score in the lineup, the man who is usually anointed for his shot calling to be the reason. The team looks a bit more concise. Afreeca have been more reliable than KT, and this engage from Tucson really made KT left wanting. They thought if they rushed in, just showing 3 members would get them to back off this inhibitor take. Instead, Afreeca said, we know you're out of position. We're going all in.
Yeah. And
they rolled high. This was definitely the one risk they took. It paid off in the biggest possible way. And suddenly KT have no room to make any more mistakes.
The Kaiser, too, already had the W on him, so was able to jump right in there. But guys, we're going to take another break before we get into game number 4. Can Afreeca close it out, or will KT bring us to game number 5? Join us in a bit.
야, 하나 둘셋 하고 짝짝짝짝짝 오케이? 하나 둘셋 짝짝짝짝짝짝 뭐 락스 어린이 지금 야 박수 치는 게 확실히 좋긴 좋대.
영화리반 친구들. 네. 오늘은 KSV로 서포트 할 거예요.
야 마지막 심심하니까 헤드셋 체크 한 번만 더 해보자.
심심하니까 헤드셋 체크.
할 거 없으니까 빨리 나와요.
빨리.
다들 리디? 정글.
오케이.
달려. 미드.
오케이. 원딜. 오케이. 서포트. 오케이. 이게 안 심심하다. 하나도 안 심심해. 뭐 안 하지? 오후 5시입니다. 게임을 시작해 주세요.
지금 애가 녹았어. 나가 플레이 말고. 여기 아래쪽 올라가요. 한타 종료. 그러면 데미지 안 나오죠. KSV.
정지하고 싶은 마음은 들겠습니다만 왜 그러죠?
오케이. 질러. 올라가. 천천히 빠지면서. 이게 지금이다. 자 퍼즈 좀. 나 멈췄어.
미드.
나 멈췄어요 캐릭터가. 저 이거 껴서 안 움직여요 여기서.
한번 볼까요?
네, 한번
키는 것만 보시죠. 키가
아래 밀고 먹고
뱉었는데
근데 여기서 안 움직인대요.
나무에 꼈네요.
같은데?
다시 한번 먹어볼까요? 먹으면 될 것 같아. 네, 오케이.
해볼게요.
와봐. 움직여. 공각.
성환이 대기하고 있었습니다.
네, 이거 못 막아요.
경기가
그냥 전체적으로 5명이 다 잘했습니다. 무엇보다
와 들어온 거 봐.
진짜 더럽게 하네. 킬 따보려고 익나드는 거 봐. 어떻게 전통 미드야?
어하 피해주고.
정통 미드 동빈이 형.
아,
내가
미디어
조이할게.
훨씬 세네,
아침에
미디어리.
오케이.
후후후후 감전 터뜨렸죠. 토통통통통.
와 동빈이 형 왜 이렇게 잘 맞춰?
돌아가.
와 뭐야
여기
이거
일방
뭐야?
통행이다. 일방 통행이라 했다. 나 모로 핑크 샀어. 아, 버릇 들어가지고 핑크 샀어. 버릇 안 사고.
어떻게 하는 거야 이거?
아타콤보
이평 떡큐?
2평 떡큐 2평 평평 2평 평
무조건 스킬로 먹어, 스킬로. 평타 치면 한 대 무조건 맞아야 돼.
봐줘.
말했다.
좀만 봐줘봐.
아 좋다.
CS 좀 먹어봐, CS.
미드
원딜.
서포터?
야 서포터
야, 나 떨려.
잘 들려요.
와 진짜 못하네.
봐줬다.
너 왜 이렇게 이길 것 같지?
이길 것 같다고요? 이겨주시는 거예요, 하혁이 형?
아니?
캐리 선언?
아니 나
아 너무 떨려요.
뭐가 떨린다는 거지?
떨려. 그렇긴 해. 긴장하니까. 그러니까 내가 생각없이 게임을 하잖아. 근데 떨릴수록 더 긴장하니까 더 열심히 하는 긴장은 못해지나? 더 집중되지 않아? 그러니까 생각 없이 하는 게 없어져. 생각을 하게 돼. 너무 떨리면.
형이 타선 뭐할 거냐고 고민 많이 했잖아.
뭐야, 왜 이렇게 손이 고와?
그냥 이제 많이 하나 내려가면
야,
빨리
따뜻하게.
야 이제 뭐 싫어도 지금 게임하는데 잘 좀 해달라고. 근데 얘 맞으면 너도 캐리 좀 해줘. 그래 캐리 해달라고 빌어. 그래 차라리 그렇게 하는 게 훨씬 낫지.
시작.
경기 시작하겠습니다.
출연을 안쪽 들어오자마자 일단 건져냈습니다. 고장전.
하루도 못 와요. 자 이거
아웃이 않다라고 말씀드렸는데.
자 이거 포장전 전면 없는 거에 노리는 거죠.
그렇죠. 이게 또 뜨자마자 보냅니다. 자 크라이어.
자 구원은 피할 살리고요.
자 그다음에 보리오 블라스터를 이겨냈어. 블라스터를.
여기까지 아로스.
결국 레서스가 파괴되면서 경기가 끝납니다.
아 오랜만에 깔끔하다. 진짜 말.
꾸준한 역할이 팀 내에서의 베테랑의 역할이고 팀 내 선배 역할인데 페이커 앞에 울프가
이니디가 말도 안 돼. 예술입니다. 심지어 양 정글러가 너무 잘하는 거 아닌가요?
정글러가 7분이 15분인데
아 너무 단단한데요 팀 운영. 이거 뭐 프레이가 프리데.
다음에 킬을 냈습니다.
네. 칸이 덮치는 포지션이 와
그냥 전성기로 마무리.
말릴 사람이 없어요.
Trying to get demons up out of me. Turn to a beast, eat your artery.